All right, everyone. Well, it's 12:05. I think, Sarah, if you're comfortable, we can get started, if that sounds good.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everyone to CELT's Mindful and Contemplative Pedagogy series. Now that this beautiful spring weather is upon us, we think about being outside more, enjoying the sunshine, and I love seeing the blooms across campus. Yesterday, I went to the Lago Marcino courtyard and I saw the beautiful magnolia tree. Oh my gosh, it looks gorgeous. So if you have a chance to do that, go out there and do that and enjoy that because it's absolutely stunning. So this afternoon, we are joined by Reiman Gardens Education Manager and Artist, Sara Merritt, who will share with us some information on Reiman Gardens' new sculptural exhibit, Origami in the Garden 2. Sara will lead our discussion by first sharing unique horticultural displays, programs, and events associated with this exhibit that are intended to provide the Ames and Iowa State community with a place to contemplate, meditate, recenter, and heal. We will learn about various mindfulness opportunities that can be incorporated into our personal and learning environments. So thank you so much, Sara. It's wonderful seeing you, and we're really excited to learn from your expertise.
If I stay with it. Thank you very much, Karen. I appreciate that. And, I do want to start with a land acknowledgement. So I and work, and therefore I'm presenting today on the ancestral lands and territory of the Bokoji or Iowa Nation. The United States obtained this land from the Meskwaki and Sauk nations in the Treaty of 1842, and I wish to recognize our obligations to this land and to the people who took care of it, as well as to the 17,000 Native people who live in Iowa today. So here's my information. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me about anything that we're offering here, excuse me, you can email me. There is Merritt. And I'm going to start with a slide full of text. So forgive me here. But I wanted to talk about why we're calling this patterns unfolding. So each year at Reiman Gardens, to communicate our mission, which is to educate, enchant, and inspire an appreciation of plants, butterflies, and the beauty of the natural world, we apply a new theme that connects our horticulture displays, education programs, events, exhibits, and then even, the material that we sell in the gift shop. It's all connected together, makes it sort of cohesive and allows us to really be creative within that. So our 2021 theme is patterns unfolding, and I'm just going to read you this to explain what that means. So this year we take time to reflect, connect, and celebrate what ties us to nature and to each other. In spring, we welcome blossoming bulbs and the sculpture exhibit Origami in the Garden 2, both representing a labor of love, patience, and the power of the human spirit. Like origami, nature folds and unfolds in breathtaking ways. From planting schedules and natural cycles to balance in form and structure, you'll see universal patterns reflected in our garden displays and mesmerizing holiday lights, which we just talked about. The living earth repeats its many shapes in all colors and shades. It gives us healing herbs and a sense of peace we hope to share as you seek respite and enjoyment in tranquil places and programs we've cultivated for you this year. So it was a breathful, but I'm going to start by talking about some of our programmatic elements, and then we'll talk about the exhibit and a few other things at the end. So the first thing I want to introduce is this really exciting project called Reiman Reflections. So along with that idea, 2020 was a time of great challenge for everybody in a myriad of ways. And one of the things that really kept people going was the engagement with nature. So folks went outside, they went for walks. We sought respite in natural spaces. We went to parks. We came to Reiman Gardens. We, really tried to make that connection happen because there was so much that was missing from our regular activities. So in 2021, we would like to continue that community connection by sharing stories and sharing art with each other to celebrate how we engaged with nature and how we still engage with nature. So this is a collection of poetry, prose, and visual art celebrating nature in the time of crisis. So we're asking folks to participate with us and submit poetry, prose, drawing, photography that either you made during 2020 or at Reiman Gardens, or is inspired or was inspired by nature. And we're going to gather this in a digital book that we will make available on our website for free download at the end of the year. So around the beginning of December. So if you're interested in participating in this, it can be anything. We're asking folks to submit via email. So you can send an image, a PDF, a document. You can take a scan of a handwritten poem or little drawing, and then send that to rgeducation@iastate.edu. Include your name, or if you prefer to be anonymous, you can make it known, and then include the submission. And if you want to include any other details about, where you were or a title or anything like that, you can include any of those pieces of information. And we'll be collecting through the end of November. So from now through November 30th, we'll just be collecting this and then compiling it and putting it online. If you want to participate, but you don't want to share something specifically, if you want to join in the community part of it, you can also post on your own social media and just tag Reiman Gardens with the hashtag Reiman Reflections. So we hope that folks will join us for that. I'm looking forward to seeing what everybody has done throughout the year. So now we're going to switch a little bit and talk about some of our garden displays. So in our conservatory right now, we have an orchid display that's sort of slowly shifting as those orchids go through their life cycle and we start seeing new plants come in. But around opening at around Memorial Day weekend, there will be a new display in the conservatory as well as the hallway. So in the conservatory, we will be presenting a garden mandala. From the Sanskrit meaning circle, mandalas have roots in Eastern religions such as Vajrayana Buddhism, Hinduism, and Jainism as objects of deity devotion through visualization and meditation. Interpreted externally, mandalas might serve as a visual representation of an ideal universe, or internally, they could be a personal guide for a meditative practice. So we are going to be sharing with you this mandala made from, not this mandala, a different mandala. This is just an example. Made from earth materials, made from living materials, plants and flowers, in the hope that we can help provide a sacred space for quiet reflection. As an extension of that conservatory display, throughout the hallway, we will have what we're calling a mandala corridor. So as you traverse the hallway to and from the conservatory, we have 8 willow mandalas hanging in each window section as an invitation to look deeper, both inside and outside. Created by local artists Pam Dennis and Rick Weiss, these works of art will be surrounded by smaller mandalas made by volunteers from natural materials that have been collected at Reiman Gardens. So come check that out around Memorial Day weekend. We also have a pattern garden at Reiman Gardens. It's kind of towards the back around where Elwood the gnome is. And because our theme is patterns unfolding, we had to do some pattern stuff in here. So what we're focusing on is the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence. So many of you may already be familiar with these, but the Fibonacci sequence is one of the most famous formulas in mathematics. Each number in the sequence is the sum of the 2 numbers that come before it. So the sequence goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, and so on ad infinitum. So it's been called nature's secret code and nature's universal rule, because this sequence creates a pattern you can instantly recognize in nature. Nautilus shell chambers and sunflower petals adhere to the Fibonacci sequence's logarithmic spiral almost perfectly, and it extends from flowers to pine cones, hurricanes and tornadoes, and even basically makes up the patterns that we see in space and time. So it's pretty macro and micro. And what you see is this continuous spiral. So some of the plants that we'll be focusing on in the pattern garden also reflect that pattern. So the first one that you see here is a teddy bear sunflower, which I think is just adorable. The middle one is a rose. It's called Jean Keneally. It's just a rose hybrid. And then we'll also have different succulents like Echeveria. And so when you look really closely at a lot of these plant materials, you'll see that pattern reflected in the materials and also in the design of the display. So we're excited for that. And a lot of these displays will be opening about mid-May. So once we transition from tulips, that's when all these wonderful plants will start to come up. Our children's garden is focusing really on shapes and sunflowers. So we're taking the pattern, we're extending that to shapes. And I don't know if folks know, but 2021 is the year of the sunflower. So you've already seen some sunflowers in our pattern garden. Our children's garden corral, that small little area, will be focused will be filled with sunflowers, different shapes, different varieties. Here are just two of those varieties that you'll see. But one of the things I love about sunflowers is that they are heliotropic, which means that they grow towards the sun. A lot of plants do these, but sunflowers, you can really see it with sunflowers. And interestingly enough, humans tend to do the same. We seek out the light and we grow best when we have what we need. So you'll see a couple of varieties of different colors and different shapes and different sizes that are really light and really fun in the children's garden. Of course, when we're talking about reflection and respite and stress relief, we have to talk about healing, and our herb garden is a perennial space, but we sort of shift a little bit here and there with different types of herbs that we offer. And this year we'll be talking about healing herbs and connecting those to crystals and chakras. So we already have different sections in the herb garden that are focused on things like dyes, scented herbs, beverages and culinary herbs, tussy mussies, or like making little bouquets, little collections of herbs, sages, and herbs for pollinators. And so we're going to be shifting that a little bit and planting in a color arrangement that connects to the color of the chakra. So the root chakra is red, represents grounding. Some of the featured plants will be red beet and turmeric. The sacral shock is the orange color, represents creativity and feeling. We'll have things like Arabian jasmine, patchouli. The solar plexus, or the yellow chakra, represents intellect and will, and we will feature lemongrass and mujan tea. The green is the heart chakra, representing love and compassion, where we'll have ginger, basil, parsley, green stuff. The throat chakra is blue and represents community and truth, and mint will be one of our featured plants for that. The third eye is the indigo color, representing intuition and wisdom. And we have lots of sages that we will connect within that space. And then the violet chakra is the crown chakra, representing a universal consciousness or a cosmic consciousness. We'll be representing that with lavender. So it should be fun. We'll have some kind of hanging crystal forms and some other things that will make it a little bit interesting as well. So make sure you check that out. And then there are other garden displays, but I don't want to give you everything, right? You have to come to the gardens to check it out. But in addition to that, we're connecting a lot of our displays with some of the really cool education programs that we're offering. So this is just a small selection of programs that are coming up. Not everything is on our website right now, but as we keep going, you'll see a lot more programs being offered. So some of those things that align with that wellness idea or that mindfulness idea are mindful doodling, which we talked just briefly about. We have mindful coloring later in the year. plein air painting, which is outdoor painting with illustrator Kelsey Wilson, who's a phenomenal instructor from Nevada. Plant walks, some of those will be featuring medicinal herbs and other collections. Our Fresh Cut Florals program is a program where you come to the gardens and you make fresh arrangements with materials that have been cut from the gardens. Make music with the dancing chimes. We have a sort of a behind the scenes tour where you can come and play the dancing chimes. If you haven't heard of these, you got to come to the gardens and check them out. It's our permanent musical feature that's embedded in the ground at the gardens. We will have demonstrations on planting edibles in containers. We will have a discussion about gardening for stress relief. We are also partnering with Ames Parks and Recreation to offer some wellness programs outdoors at the gardens. So those will be, we're still waiting on the City of Ames legal department to go through all of our agreement here. But once those are approved, they'll go up on the website and you can register for different yoga classes, some of which happen either before or after open hours at the gardens. So it'll be a little bit more of a private experience. We have a beginner Tai Chi class and some Pilates programs as well. So make sure to check those out because we're very excited about those. We have wanted to do those things in our spaces for a long time. So we're excited. And then of course, origami related programs that are connected to our display, which we'll talk about in a minute. A couple of those include free film showings. So there's a PBS film called Between the Folds, which features, I think, 10 different origami artists that work in different ways to connect origami with what they're doing. And that'll be really exciting because we have 2 free admission days at the gardens as well. So May 12 and November 11 will be our free admission days, and we're showing these films at various times throughout the day. We will be hosting a variety of folding workshops and demonstrations. Nathan Brockman, our curator of the Christina Reiman Butterfly Wing and resident entomologist, is also really fond of insect origami. So he will be teaching some programs of different types of origami folding. And then we will be doing some guided tours of the exhibit as well throughout the season. We also have in our collection a lot of plants that have been traditionally used to make paper. So we will be hosting some programs that talk about that or incorporate that, some paper making workshops, and then just much, much more. So we're really excited to offer a lot of these programs. So speaking about exhibits, and Nathan Brockman, our resident entomologist who loves origami, currently in our garden room gallery, we have a display called Arthropods in the Fold, which is a collection of these display boxes, display cases that have a mixture of real insect and invertebrate specimens, as well as origami folded insect and invertebrate specimens. This one is just filled with origami, which is very exciting. And then we have some photographs of invertebrates as well. So that'll be up through at least the end of May when we transition and bring in origami in the garden too. But for now, it's a really cool display. You can come see it. I wanted to show folks on the right, this is our, this is what we call an otheca, which is basically the egg sac for praying mantids. So this shows what a real otheca might actually look like, which is when it opens, a bunch of little baby mantids come out. I think it's really beautiful because it's so colorful. So come check that out. And that leads me to origami in the garden too, which we're super excited about. So Karen already talked a little bit about that display, but this will be on display in the gardens from May 22nd through November 14th. And it features 17 different displays of large scale origami structures that have been made out of metal. And all of these pieces, so it's really, it's made by Santa Fe artists Jennifer and Kevin Box, with collaborating with other artists that are world-renowned origami artists, like Michael G. LaFosse, Robert J. Lang, Teji Fu, Beth Johnson, and then Tim Armio. And so it's this wonderful collaboration, and all of the pieces started as paper folded forms and then went through this 35-step, 12-week process to become basically archival metal objects. So we're very excited to be hosting that. So here you see standing cranes. They are different on one side and the other side. So as you pass through them, you'll see something different. I'm going to talk a little bit about just a few of the exhibits in the sculpture, because again, I don't want to give everything away. So at the end of May, come out and check it out. It's going to be really beautiful. So this is one called Seed Sower, and it is in relationship with another piece called Seed, which is an origami acorn that's about, I don't know, 12 inches big, 12 inches wide. And so these two things stand together in one display, and the connections that we make are about mutualism and relationships in nature. So how the squirrel and the tree have this mutualistic relationship, because the squirrel uses the tree for food and shelter, but then the tree uses the squirrel for distribution of its seed. So it's cool that we're gonna have these out there. The next one I wanted to talk about is Who Saw Who? Now this one features a falcon, as you can see, and then in the lower right-hand corner, it's a little bit difficult to see, there is a mouse on a rock. So you have a falcon and you have a mouse, and they're looking directly at each other. They will be across a pathway when they get installed at Reiman Gardens. And the idea is that in a predator and prey relationship, you have the predator looking for the prey, and then you have the prey looking both for food and for the predator. So you have these different relationships. And the kind of fun question here is, who saw who first? You know, what's happening there? One of the others that we have, so we have a lot of paper cranes that will be featured in the exhibit in different ways. This one is nesting pear, so features two paper cranes sitting basically in a nest of olive branches, which represents love, compromise, and working together, and actually really starts telling the story of the two artists here, Jennifer and Kevin Box, who are married and are working together to create this exhibit. This one is one of my very favorites. This is called Rising Peace, and really it's 7 paper cranes that are sort of balanced on each other and rising, you know, into the sky, which really tries to spread the message of peace and the story of Sadako Sasaki. So many of you may have read Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes, but here we will be with each of these sculptures. There will be a sign with a QR code, and we have mobile engagement that gives you more information about each of the pieces. And in this one, you get to hear the story of Sadako Sasaki and her relationship with the Senbatsuru legend, which is the legend that if you make 1,000 paper cranes, you get a wish. And, you know, unfortunately, Sadako was one of the victims of the atomic bombing, the US atomic bombing of Hiroshima. And so she did contract leukemia, and she ended up dying from leukemia. But her story and this effort that she made to first grant herself a wish to be healthy, and then when she realized that that wasn't going to happen, then she transitioned that wish to a wish of world peace. And so origami folding really spread across the world, and that message of peace really transmitted through this one person's story. And so this one is a really powerful piece that we're really excited to have. Paper Navigator is a little paper boat that will be, it'll actually be moving shortly after it's installed. So we'll start this on Lake Helen, and then we'll move this to our new garden space, Sycamore Falls, after we after we're ready, after we fill the reflecting pool and we get that space ready. So it'll move a little bit, but really with this piece, we are talking about how people move, right? How people have used boats to cross oceans to move to new places, and they bring their cultures, their plants, their traditions with them, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes creates a lot of tension. And so with this, we go back to our land acknowledgement, and when you're engaging with this piece, you have the opportunity to learn more about the Bakoji people and the Meskwaki people, so that we can recognize and acknowledge those folks. Painted ponies, we will have two, I think we'll have one large and two small, don't quote me on that, red, white, and blue ponies. They will be out in an open space at the gardens. And this is really a representation of collaboration and teaching. Kevin Box worked with Teji Fu on this as a teacher. So Teji was teaching Kevin how to work with this process. And it doesn't show it here in this photo, but on the back side of each of these ponies is a signature. And the signature is a collaborative signature. The last, Teji's last name, Fu, actually also translates as teacher. And then it is surrounded by a box, which represents Kevin's last name. So it's teacher in a box is actually what it'll look like. So, and then of course we ask folks to figure out what the symbolism of the horse is. So you can think about that if you want.
Sarah, there are a couple of questions coming in the chat. Do you want to respond to those?
Oh, sure. Yep, I can't see those. So you can go ahead and jump in with those.
Perfect. Okay, so the first one's from Mary. How long do you say the indoor origami display in the gallery room will be exhibited? Is that going to go through November as well? The indoor origami display?
That one so far is going through the end of May.
Okay.
We are transitioning. We're actually in the middle of planning a new kind of a different exhibit to go in there alongside and in kind of conjunction with the origami and the garden display. But I don't know what that'll exactly look like. So at least until May, at least through May, that exhibit will be in the garden room. And some of those pieces are for sale. So if you're interested in collecting any, you can come check those out. Great question.
One more question. Are those QR codes that you mentioned, are they also available as links on the website?
So what we're going to do is we're going to put all the information about the exhibit that we've cultivated in one location on the website. So it'll be a long page, but yes, so the short answer is yes. They will be available in one page on the website, but also if you're familiar with working with QR codes, if you just open for most newer phones and all iPhones, if you just open your camera and then you hover over the QR code, it'll take you directly to the page. And there are different pages for each of the sculptures. And so those will be separate and only available through a mobile device, but the information will be available on our website. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, super. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Are we good? Excellent. Wonderful questions. This one is one of my favorites. I think it's one of the most fun. It's called Conversation Piece, and you'll notice piece is P-E-A-C-E. This one is really fun because it is literally rock, paper, scissors. And so the messaging with this one is that rock, paper, scissors is a kind of a fun and silly game that can be used for small, little challenges, to determine a winner for something or someone who has to go do something. But when it comes to larger disputes, really a conversation has to happen, right? Conversation has to start the communication. And so it's a little bit about how we start with this little small dispute, but then we really have to start talking if we want to get to some kind of a conclusion for those deeper things. And then this is the last one I'll talk about. This one's called Emerging Peace, and it starts with a leaf that transitions into a caterpillar, a pupa, and then in a butterfly. And with this one, I want to read a statement from the artist. So this is Kevin Box in his own words. The story of humanity and the life cycle of a caterpillar have many things in common. We are going through similar cycles of consumption, growth, and transformation. The plant which the caterpillar consumes is like our planet. The caterpillar's appetite is a lot like our own, and our fate is tied to our ability to transform our unsustainable capacity for consumption into balanced patterns of prosperity. And this one I think is really representative. It's actually going to be in our butterfly wing. So you'll only be able to see it when the butterfly wing is open. And really this kind of gets to the whole heart of the exhibit itself, which is the idea of transformation, the idea of growth, and the idea of sharing and celebrating those who are different from you, and coming back to taking care of the planet and really being respectful and honoring those traditions and that sort of thing. So this one is the last one I'll talk about. And then, like I said, there are 17 total displays, including an inside out gallery, which are some folded pieces that are actually paper models, and then some unfolded pieces that you'll have to kind of guess which papers go to the folded model based on the patterns that they've created. So that'll be super fun. And I'm happy to answer more questions. That's really all I have prepared for today. But I'd love to answer other questions if there are any.
Sara, when will Sycamore Falls be open? Because each time I've been there, I've noticed it's been closed. I assume we're waiting for a grand event.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so that I can see folks' faces, if that's okay. Yeah. So Sycamore Falls, that's kind of that's been a big challenge for us at the gardens, and without spending time just complaining about contractors, which I could do at length. I'll just say that there have been a lot of incorrect concrete and different materials that have been laid down that don't suit our environment. And so some changes still have to be made. The one change that we're really waiting on right now is the reflecting pool. The concrete at the base of the reflecting pool was made with a material that doesn't work in Iowa. And so they had to tear it out and replace it. And so we are hoping that will happen sometime, that'll be finished sometime in June. And the garden, I don't know, I still don't know when it'll be open, but it might be open and just have that space closed off. But at least by June, we're hoping that whole space will be open and folks can walk through it and really enjoy it. So that's a good question. I appreciate it. It's frustrating for us, so. What other questions do folks have? Oh, are the tulips blooming now? They're starting, yeah. Yeah, we have some tulips starting. We actually are scheduling extended tulip hours. So right now the gardens are open from 10 to 4:30. In May, those hours become 10 to 6. And then starting, I think, on April 22nd through that weekend, and then the next weekend, we will be staying open until, I think it's 8 p.m. So folks can come out and see them a little bit later in the evening to really get the most out of those blooming tulips.
So in my background photo, I have a picture from last week, Friday.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I think Nancy has probably seen more of the tulips than I have, just because I haven't been out everywhere. But yeah, they're coming in, and there are tens of thousands of them. So more than 5,000.
I was there yesterday and I'm like, oh, I think I need to come back sooner than a week. So
yeah, so if you can, come out this week and check them out.
Yeah, and the red tulips that I assume are around the reflecting pool in Sycamore Falls, even from a distance, they're pretty. So
great. Well, I'm glad they're looking good. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing all this. I didn't realize that 2021 is the year of the sunflowers. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. And I think Origami in the Garden too is going to be fabulous, and I can't wait to check it out. Do you have any suggestions for how instructors, because I know it'll be through November, so if instructors want to have their classes come, you know, in the fall or something, like how can instructors reach out to you to see if they can do some programming in your space?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, because we're short on staff in education, so we are not offering guided tours for many group visits. But for Iowa State students and classes, we really try to prioritize those groups for guided tours.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are interested in signing up in scheduling your class or your learning community or your club for a visit to the gardens, you can do that through me or through our website. There are that RG education email that I included earlier. You can send that to either myself or RG Education. They both come to me, so it's
perfect.
It's really, and then we will either schedule you for a self-guided visit, which means you can spend as much time in the gardens as you want to, or we schedule you for a guided visit. It would probably be about 45 minutes, and we won't take you through the whole thing because it's just too much to get through. But if you wanted that, there are we would work with staff to figure out who can walk you through different spaces or who can meet with you and that sort of thing. So.
Perfect. That's great. I think that would be fabulous. I would imagine
And
that
those,
students
and,
want to get
and those are always free. So Iowa State students are always free, and programs for Iowa State students are free unless they happen after hours or include materials. So
that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for asking.
Sarah, when you're doing the demonstrations for origami, are those going to be outside, inside, or do we know yet?
They're going to be inside. We are bringing back in-person programs, but we are following the ISU guidelines for events. So until further notice, masks covering nose and mouth are required indoors and outdoors when physical distancing is not possible. So that one's harder for us to manage, but it's at least the statement that we're giving to folks. And when people are indoors, they will be separated by, in our garden room, it's a fairly large room, so we can separate folks out pretty well. And then not only will be doing demonstrations, but they'll also be projected on our screens. We'll be able to see those larger because we know that's a challenge. So
are those going to be regularly scheduled? Or, I mean, will they be on the events calendar?
Yep, I'm working on it. I'm working on that with Nathan. He's got a lot of kids, so they've got a lot of sports schedules he's got to work around. So those should be up within the month, I would assume, and we're planning to do those probably once a month. So
okay.
Yeah. Excellent. What other questions do folks have?
So the sculptures, are there any in Sycamore Falls? Yes. So hopefully it'll be open so we can see it.
Yeah. I assume that now that I'm thinking about it, I assume that the path will at least be open once we install the display. And then I think it's really just that reflecting pool we're going to be waiting on that to move one of our sculptures. And so we'll be sort of shifting a couple of them once we do that. But yeah, it should be open.
And there's the one in the butterfly wing. Is that the only one inside?
There is another indoor display. We're calling it the Inside Out Gallery. It'll be at the end. Okay. So there will be some podiums with folded pieces next to about this size, relatively, wall hangings that are basically translated paper, unfolded paper. So and the idea is that you have to match which one goes to which one.
Okay.
So those two are the only ones inside. Yeah. Well, thanks, folks. I really appreciate everyone joining us today and listening. Hope you all come out to see the gardens and see everything that we have to offer. You know, May is really when things kind of kick it off. So we're happy to do this in April to let you know what's coming. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sarah, there's going to be a member, is there going to be a members only kickoff?
Yes, I believe that's the 21st of May. Yep, so if you're a member, you'll be able to come that evening for a preview.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. This is gonna be awesome. Like, it's just gonna be fabulous. This is a great resource for the Ames community and for Iowa State. And I can't wait to go there and meditate in the mandala quarter and figure out if I can make one.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
So at that members only, will they be talking about the individual sculptures?
We're not sure what the program looks like yet, but we will be recording some behind the scenes tours with our artists.
Good.
We'll be sharing those that evening as well. So
okay.
At least there will be video, if not other programming.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. It was wonderful to see you, and enjoy this beautiful spring weather and all the blooming that's going to be happening. So that's exciting. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.